I can do this, Heidi, if you want.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Wow. Okay. I'm Heidi and I'm an alcoholic.
Heidi.
Wow. Thank you, Ostry. So, as Ostry so graciously said, I am the daughter of immigrants to this country. And my mother came from Norway and my father from Denmark. And so my life was pretty much started out wanting to fit in with the American way. Not so much that my parents were, doing this because the Joneses did that or the Andersons and the Smiths did that, but they were just wanted to, be American because that was like, what they came to this country for. So I am the middle child, and I have an older brother and little sister, and so I always swore I was adopted, growing up because I just I always wanted this and wanted that, and and I wasn't the oldest one and I wasn't the youngest one. So I was just there and I'm like, okay, I must be adopted. So it was just like, I too wanted to fit in. So we moved out to Shoreline from Ballard in when I was about 5 years old, because Shoreline is where they had the new schools that were like, the place to be and raise your kids. So my younger years, I mean, I was a pretty good kid. I was pretty active. My dad being a coach and played soccer, and he did hockey in Denmark. And I mean, he was just, go, go, go. And my mom was raised on the farm in Norway. So she was always working and busy. So that was kind of my upbringing. I knew that I just had to work hard to get where I wanted to be. And so I started, let me see, my dad was a smoker. So I kind of thought, well, that's kind of cool. I think I want to do that. So at about age 10, I started stealing cigarettes. And I was clever at the way I stole them, because I take them from the pack, the top of the pack, and just push him down like he would never know. And I, I was pretty successful at that. So, okay, that's pretty cool. So maybe I'll try some of that vodka too. And I was, stealing alcohol. And he had Rhinelander beer in the fridge downstairs. So that didn't really interest me too much. So, but the vodka and the akavit and the, whiskey, whatever. So, and I was pretty clever at that too. I just was always really proud at how I could lie, cheat, and whatever, because of course he would know I was watering it down. Because he, in his terms, he drank whiskey and vink. He was always mixing it with wink. So, which was like squirt, I guess, would be comparable to. So anyway, it was like, I was one of those that was like, yeah, I'm pretty smart with this lying and cheating and just, stealing. So, and I was trying really hard to fit in. So I always gravitated to those kids that were, in the back end of maybe the field, smoking cigarettes or smoking pot or whatever. And one time this group, they were like, and I was 12 years old, and they were like, oh yeah, there's a wine cellar. Let's go steal some wine and get, have a party. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's go do that. Well, they neglected to say it was homemade wine that hadn't quite fermented. And so, oh, by the way, John O'Hare gave me this. So thank you, John, tonight. This is my good luck charm. Anyway, so I'm with my story. Um, and so we broke into a house, stole this wine, went out and just guzzled. And I hated it, but I like, oh, okay, I better do this because everybody's doing this. And, oh man, I got so sick. And so, I mean, I don't know. I blacked out. That was the start of my drinking career, pretty much. And so the problem was I was playing soccer. My dad had started a girls' soccer team, and so I was playing soccer, and he watched me stagger home from across the street, and he's going, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And so anyway, I came home, I vomited everywhere, and we had a big soccer game the next day. Well, he made me play. And there was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, how could you do that to me? Like, I had no conscience, and I was justified in my actions always. So fast forward, that behavior kept going. I was smoking pot every day, skipping school, still choosing that group at schools. I moved on to high school, and just, skipped, drank, carried on. Graduated. By this time, I had gotten a boyfriend that was a little bit older, and he introduced me to cocaine. And so we started doing cocaine on the weekends. And you know what? I kind of liked it because that allowed me to drink more. I could drink more. So that was kind of my thing. I always wanted more. So let's do some coke. And that year, it was, yeah, I graduated high school. That Christmas, got a phone call. My little sister had been killed in a car accident. And it was pretty shocking, pretty devastating. And I just I didn't know what to do, how to handle it. So I pretty much was in shock for quite some time, trying to learn how to mourn, because at that point I was stuffing my feelings with either pot or alcohol. Couldn't really afford Coke that much at that point, so it was mainly alcohol, and I did the best I could. So kind of I progressed to, I had a good job at the time and was working and, just going on with life. And then I was in a serious car accident myself, and it was fatal. My boyfriend was killed, and I was thrown out of the vehicle and landed on the other side of the freeway. Had a fractured skull, and I suffered partial paralysis. I was in the hospital for 2 months, and mainly I was in a coma for 2 weeks. When I woke up, then they started rehabilitation right away. And luckily, through physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, and then therapy of my dad, I'm doing pretty good today, and for that I'm extremely grateful. The problems I had and still have a little bit of is with my memory. I had to relearn a lot of things. What came back pretty easily was drinking. I remembered that pretty well. And I also remembered after some time, oh yeah, cocaine. That'll help me drink longer and party all night. So from I was at that point where I started drinking after my accident. I think I took about a 6-month period off after my accident just to kind of get my faculties about me and go back to work and all of that. And oh gosh, where was I going with that? Anyway, so I from 21 to 25, the progression was quick. It was, I was angry at God. I was pissed off at the condition of my life, not knowing that it was in my control to, well, to meet that condition. But I was so angry and so mad and so resentful that I just drank and drugged, and I started doing things I would never have thought myself doing. Stealing, because I was good at it. So yeah, we'll do some more. I was embezzling money from the company I was working for, and I, was. It got to the point where I wasn't calling in, I wasn't showing up, I wasn't showing up for family events. Because, well, you guys know I deserve this, right? I mean, I just don't feel like coming in, and I feel like continuing, this party for a good 24 hours. So, so the day I surrendered, which was October 13th, 1985, I was 25 years old, and I remember getting to the end, driving to the end of my friend's house, because her and I liked to do coke all night, and nobody bugged us, and we liked to drink. I mean, it was just like this big party between her and I, and solving all the world's problems. And I remember going to the end of the street thinking, oh my God, if I go home, I'm going to really get it. I'm just going to, and again, I didn't show up for my dad's birthday. Oh, he was sober by this time. He had three years of sobriety. And then, or I could take a left and go to the care unit, which is now Lakeside Milam. So I thought, oh, I'll go there because that'll get people off my back. And, I can just learn how to drink socially and do cocaine on the weekends. So again, because, that's how I started, and it was kind of fun. So I actually, after driving around in a state of drunkenness, and I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept for about 24 hours, and I actually ended up in the parking lot, and I went, okay, come get me. And I remember pulling up in my car thinking, I'm here, come on. And it's like, nobody's coming. What the hell? Don't they know? I mean, I was like, I just had that. It wasn't, I don't know. I just had that thought that people could read my mind. And, but then I heard a voice that said, open the door and walk in. So that's what I did. And, I was given a phone call after they kind of looked at me and went, oh yeah, you do need some help. And so I called my mom and dad, and my mom, and I'm like, oh, she would never know that I was doing coke and drinking. And she said to me, "You are right where you need to be." And I thought, oh God, okay. Um, so that is when I say my day of surrender, I have been granted a daily reprieve contingent on my spiritual condition today, because I keep showing up and I keep doing the deal. I've been working with a Austri for over 20 years, and it has been such a blessing. I've had a few other sponsors prior to that. So I was in for 38 days or 28 days. Got out, got a sponsor right away, somebody that I worked with. And she was a great first step sponsor. She took me to a lot of meetings. I went to dances and just a lot of activities, campouts and picnics and all of that. And then it was like, when I was up to a year's sobriety, it was kind of like, okay, let's do the deal. I'm ready. And she wasn't. So, and that's okay. I got another sponsor and she moved away. So, got another sponsor and she moved away. But in that time, I did do the steps, and I was taken through by each one of those ladies, or maybe not my first sponsor, but each one of those ladies, to show me that there is a solution, and it's not me. So I have come to be able to recognize the unmanageability in my life today. Admitting I knew I had a problem with drugs and alcohol, but I really didn't see the unmanageability. So in coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, I can recognize that in my life today. I was able to see how messed up my life really was, and to work on changing that, find that solution. Coming to believe in a power greater than myself. I was raised in a church, and it was never here. It was never inside. It was always on the altar, or I sang in choir. It was in the choir book. It was just not a personal thing for me. So, coming to believe in a power greater than myself was, something that Alcoholics Anonymous showed me, and that I have found that, I can identify the insanity in my life today, because you know what, I'm still between these ears. I still have a lot going on. So I can hopefully not always identify the insanity, but I know I don't, that I can find that solution. So yeah, oh man, I wrote out a bunch of stuff this morning, and I'm like, okay, pray on it, and then you won't have to feel like you have to follow your notes. But now I'm trying to follow the notes in my brain, which is probably worse. So I've come to really realize and learn about a lot of prayers in our literature that help me throughout my day. And the first one is the Serenity Prayer, to accept the things I cannot change, which is you, which is circumstances, people, places, and things. I did get married in sobriety. He's not one of us, and I didn't think that would be a problem. Marriage lasted 25 years. We have two wonderful young girls, or they're young ladies now. And And for that, I'm extremely grateful. But because of Alcoholics Anonymous and that serenity prayer, I had the courage to change when we were just at an impasse. We had such differences we couldn't reconcile. So I changed, and it's okay. I'm here today, and I'm extremely grateful. Um, Another one is the third step prayer. And I got when when my dad was alive, he passed away 3 years ago. Um, we used to go to different meetings, and sometimes we'd speak together. Sometimes we just, he ended up moving down to Arizona. But one time he took me to Palm Springs, me and my girls, and I've kept this little card that they gave me. It has our third step prayer, which is, I try to say every day. I keep this on my kitchen windowsill, and it's to offer myself to God on a daily basis, and to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of bondage of self, that I may better do thy will, because, I am self will run riot most of the time. So take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So I try to live by that today. Another one I heard early on too was in the 12 and 12, and it's the 11th step prayer, which is St. Francis prayer. And I remember when I first was going to step meetings, that was something my dad really recommended that I do, from the get-go, was to go to step meetings and big book studies. So that was a lot of my sobriety in the beginning, pre-COVID. And for that, I'm really grateful. So I'm just going to say it because I love this prayer. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. I've had to really practice the forgiving part. First on myself. I had to forgive all of that, not showing up, not calling, after my accident, I lived with my parents, moved back in with them for a while, and I was so disrespectful those 4 years of just ripping and running and not bothering to call because, they knew where it was, right? So when I got sober, and like Austri said, it was about 21 years ago. My mom was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and I was making a living amends at that, and staying sober. But I just was like, first I was so sick because I thought, oh my God, I got to change this. How can I fix her? How can I make this go away? And, I came and I went to meetings and I shared my frustration. I shared my anger. but I also shared my acceptance, because like that serenity prayer, accept the things you cannot change. And I couldn't change the fact that she was dying. So what I could change was how I was handling it. So I showed up at their house every week, and my dad, who was her caregiver, and he, he was very active in Alcoholics Anonymous. So that gave him a reprieve, that gave him opportunity to go to a meeting. And when it was time, I was able to be there and hold her hand when she took her last breath. And it was because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the ability to deal with life on life's terms that I could do that. And, a good friend showed up that night, and we got to break bread together and share in a meal and laugh. And my brother was there, and I mean, my family and my dad. And anyway, so for that, I'm grateful. 15 years ago, I was faced with some health issues. My pancreas decided to stop working. And I'm like, well, shit. Well, shit. Wait a minute. I'm sober. And it's like, you know what? Didn't care. That was another blessing of my family genes, diabetes. And but you know what? I learned here how to manage. I learned that there were steps to take. So my brother, who was diagnosed 20 years prior, I called him up and I'm like, what do I do? And so he got me right in with a really good endocrinologist, and I manage today. By the grace of God, I wear a continuous glucose monitor. I eat, well, most of the time eat right. But I take insulin when I don't. No, I take insulin anyway. So for that, I'm grateful. I'm just grateful that there is a solution today. I don't have to be upset at life on life's terms. I get to live in the solution. So 5 years ago, when my 25-year marriage was heading the wrong direction, and well, it was over, and guess what? So was the company that we had signed on, and all of that. So we lost everything in a bankruptcy. Lost the house, some cars, everything. But you know what? I stayed sober. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, you know what? Life on life's terms, we don't get to choose that, right? But what I get to choose is what I do with life situations today. So I'm gonna read a little thing because I'm down to about a minute. And how did I lose it? I think I did. Imagine that. But I found it. And it is a 12-step. Like, I am so blessed to be able to have a hand to reach out today to women, and to share my experience, strength, and hope. And for that, I'm so grateful. So page 110 in our 12 and 12, it says, practically, and this is the 12th step, practically every AA member declares that there's no satisfaction has been deeper or no joy greater than in a 12-step job done well. To watch the eyes of men and women open with wonder as they move from darkness into light, to see their lives quickly filled with new purpose and meaning, to see whole families resemble or reassembled, to see the alcoholic outcast received back into his community in full citizenship, and above all, to watch these people awaken to the presence of a loving God in their lives. These things are the substance of what we receive as we carry AA's message to the next alcoholic. So, like what Shauna was saying, you know, her family, and family to me is so important too. That, you know, my girls have never seen their mom loaded. What they have seen is a lot of people sitting around, or a lot of women sitting around my table, you know, okay, let's read this. You know, um, if I want the results of this program, I have to take the action. And it's, you know, action gets the results. So sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Things always materialize if we work for them. So thank you all.